Hey, everybody, and welcome to this episode 245 of the Thoughtium Navigating Now virtual roundtable series. I'm Anthony Ewing, CEO, co-founder here at Thoughtium, and we are excited to be back at the table. Week over week, we go live to you all, our broader community, leaders within the learning and development industry, leaders abroad, and leadership topics that matter most. That's really at the center of the Navigating Now experience. And each week at 3 o'clock, we go live to you all, our community. We want to thank everybody for tuning in, particularly our YouTube community and our LinkedIn community. You know, our LinkedIn community is growing week over week, and we continue to get feedback that these discussions really matter. And we hope that you are able to find just a 1 or 2% improvement in the way that you navigate your role, the way that you interact and engage with your people, and the way that you enable your organization. So we appreciate you all for joining just a few minutes late today. With all of that behind us, I want to introduce an extremely relevant topic and a really exciting guest for today's episode 245. The topic today, the title is Automate the Ordinary and Elevate the Human. We're really going to be focused on the key ingredients in building great learning culture from within. And that means acknowledging and addressing some of the biggest trends of today and how we put those in context. In order to do that, we have a really great guest today. She is Alex Cawthon. She's the Director of Learning and Development at Penn Mutual. And she is a lifelong learner and a learning practitioner herself. And we want to welcome her to the stage. Alex, we'll have you flip your camera. Yes. If you don't mind, but thank you so much for joining. Good to see you.
Yes, good to see you. Good to see you. Yeah, thank you for working through the technical difficulties, but we're here. We made it.
You know, one of the things that we love about going live is that each week we're kind of challenged to just step in front of our community and share perspective. There's nothing scripted about this, and at times there are certain unplanned components to this. And that's what we think makes a great learning experience. We demonstrate that week over week. So thank you for navigating that with us.
Yeah, sure. Happy to be here for sure.
Yeah. So Alex, first and foremost, we want to get to know you, the human and the learning practitioner. So one of the questions that I love to ask L&D leaders, people leaders, is if you think back in your life, I want you to share a moment or a story that you can tie back to that helps us understand why you're doing the work that you do today.
Yeah. I don't know if it's a moment or a story. I think it's just a culmination of it. But if I had to wrap it up, it would be, I grew up, and I'm not going to take you through my whole life story. So it's but I did grow up in a house that was a little bit more black and white in thinking and quick to emotion and things of that nature. So I don't know how or why I took a different road, maybe in how my mind was working, but I always wondered and thought, well, it's not that black and white, or can happen. It is possible. And I always had this maybe bigger mindset than maybe the box that my household maybe kept everyone structured in. I'll say it that way. So I think that really crafted my way of seeing the world and always made me interested in other perspectives, because people outside of my house were different and they thought differently. And I wish I could pinpoint it. I've asked myself that question before, but I do think why I do what I do is because I've constantly been interacting with people throughout my whole life where they've put a glass ceiling on themselves, and not the traditional one you read in articles, but I've always believed you can do anything that you want to do. And maybe I watched too many Disney movies. I don't know. That's okay. But I have truly believed any dream is possible if you have the right plan and the right amount of grit behind it. And I've seen that play out with friends and people I've talked to and encouraged. And I've just naturally done that throughout my life. And I've seen it pay off for others and for myself. And I still wholeheartedly believe it. So that's why I do what I do. I do that in more of a business context now of we can upskill, we can be better, we can reach a higher potential. And I believe that in my personal life, and I do that for work, which is really nice, and I'm fortunate that I can do that.
What an incredible backdrop to today's discussion. You know, all about how we preserve and prioritize the human experience in learning and development. Before we dive in, tell us a little bit about your role at Penn Mutual. And I'm excited to learn a little bit about, kind of how you're structured. Like what does the learning experience look like at Penn Mutual?
Yeah. So I've been at Penn Mutual over enterprise learning and development since January. So not too terribly long, but we have definitely dove in head first. We are a mighty team of two. So if you're listening and you work at a mighty small team, I'm right there with you. I've also worked on very large 15 plus person learning and development organizations. So I've seen it both ways. But right now at Penn Mutual, we have a big focus on reworking what our learning and development looks like for the company. And they've had learning and development like many companies have in the past, but we're trying to connect it to what is our overarching talent pipeline look like and what different learning experiences being the key word, are interjected at these different life cycles throughout someone's career at our company. And of course, backing that up with what are the skills we need? What are those core skills? What are the most high priority or crucial skills for our business? And then what are those gaps that we have now, and what are we trying to reach for in the future? One being AI, which we'll talk about over the course of this conversation. But our biggest focus right now is standing up that foundation, building a very strong foundation of learning when it comes to these iterative programs you go throughout your life cycle, and then backing that up with key skills. So yes, there's a core path, but then there's also these niche learning journeys you can go down depending on what gaps you have, what career path you want to take, things of that nature.
Yeah, I love that. Thanks for the overview. Having led a scrappy small L&D team and building that function from the ground up, to also having been a part of a large enterprise L&D organization, there's something really special about a small, nimble team with the task of scaling the learning experience. And I'm sure that the experience that you're gaining at Penn Mutual will really be valued as the organization scales. I was able to take that experience and really help larger organizations understand that there are certain things that you can automate, and you can make more efficient, but there are definitely certain things that just cannot be replaced, and that's the human experience. And that's really the discussion that we're going to have here today. So I'm curious, in one of our first discussions, Alex, as you and I were getting to know each other and learning a little bit more about the work that we do, you had said something that really stuck with me, and I've actually shared it with colleagues here as well too. And it's this kind of mantra that you all hold at the center of this kind of development process at Penn Mutual. And it's automate the ordinary and humanize the unordinary. So tell us a little bit more about that mantra. I think it's so relevant today.
Yeah, and I will be super honest. I heard it at the Great Place to Work conference earlier this
So you got it elsewhere as well too.
year.
I would have just put my name on it.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So feel free, Bagmaro Steel, repurpose maybe is a better word. But there was a leader from Edward Jones, I think it was, that was speaking on stage, and she said this, and it stuck. I wrote it down. I haven't forgotten it. I'm still using it, and I continue to use it because I think there's a lot of fear that comes with AI and how's it going to be used? Is it going to take the job? All those classic things that we've all heard and or thought. And I think when we really get down to it, it's just a simple mantra that sticks in your head, very easy to remember, on it's there to automate the ordinary stuff, the stuff that isn't exciting, special, unique, and give us more time. I know we can't make more time in a day, but it gives us some time back where we can focus on those more human skills, those connections, those partnerships, the collaboration, the nuanced thinking. It doesn't know everything about your life, your company, your situation. So it should just be a jumping off point, which should not be scary, and then can give you a little bit more of a tool in your tool belt to get somewhere faster and put more creative thinking in it.
Yeah, I love that. Over the course of the last couple months, I've had the opportunity to attend a few industry conferences and, people development, L&D. And, all of these conferences have kind of the exhibit hall, if you will, that you go around and you get to see kind of the latest and greatest, tools, technology, strategies that are being used in the L&D space. And this year, more than ever, you walk around and it just seems like we're flooded with very specific technology tools that promise automation, right? That promise scalability and that promise replication of kind of real world learning in a more informed AI type of an environment. And as much as I think it's great for us to stretch our understanding of where technology can take us. I get the sense walking around these conferences that we might be losing some of the more critical and evergreen components to building and scaling learning and development. And I see you nodding your head. I'm sure that there's folks out there on LinkedIn that are maybe agreeing as well too, that like we love the shiny new tool. And it's great to assess what can help us design and deliver better learning experiences. But let's not take our eye off of the ball. And so I want to talk a little bit about that today. That's really at the center of our discussion. Alex, from your perspective, and we've talked about how you're starting to build your first foundational learning and leadership development pathways. You're starting to look at different levels of leaders and how you can enable them in different ways. What are some of the evergreen components to building and scaling these programs that may or may not involve new technology?
Yes. I have a huge passion for this topic, which is why we're talking about it. But I've come to realize over the years of working in learning and development is we're only as good as the data we have. And what I mean by that is, what are those skills? We hear a lot of different organizations, including ours, are moving to a skills-based organization to understand what are those key skills we need. And some organizations are doing that at a higher, more enterprise-wide level. Maybe there's core competencies or something of that nature. And that's well and good and can really inform this as the direction we want to go in broad development. But I think when you take the AI and the technology off of it, you do have to get to the root of what are we trying to do as a business? I think that gets missed sometimes from an L&D perspective of we know what it takes to be a good leader. We have the research, the reporting, the science behind it, but we also have to remember we're there for the business. So what is the business trying to do or accomplish now, 2 years, 5 years, however long down the road, and then back our learning strategy into that. And for them to accomplish those things, they have to have a certain skill set or certain talent within the organization. So yes, some of those key leadership skills or core skills that you need for a specialist or analyst or whatever individual contributor role, those are probably going to stay core, but you also have to remember, are you clear? Do you know what those skills are? Have you done the work to attach, these are the skills we need by this job family, by these levels, maybe even by job profiles, if you want to go that deep, which I've seen that done fairly well before. And then you can back into assessing your talent against those skills. And I think that's usually where I get bug eyes or people thinking, oh, that's a 2-year project. That's a 3-year project. Yeah, it is. But 2 or 3 years are still going to come and go. So we can either start now and have the right data and the right structure for us to then feed to AI later when we get to that point and can give it clean data, because I think there's a magical world, which I've already seen before in my past, where us as an enterprise or business can understand what talent do we already have within our walls. Don't even know exists because of the field data that we have, whether the manager assesses and maybe there's some self-reporting going on, maybe there's some formal assessment going on for a certain group. I could nerd out, but I'll hush there for a moment.
No, I love that. First of all, this is the pocket that I love to be in, right? This is like the true learning and leadership practitionership that it takes to understand and build sustainable learning culture within organizations. And again, I kind of got this sense over the course of the last few months as I stood amongst my peers that on behalf of Thoughtium and the work that we do here, I wanted to just kind of raise my hand and say, don't forget about the basics. And some of the things that you're talking about are tried and true: job architecture, skill and competency identification, mapping those to specific roles. And what I think is so interesting is that, Penn Mutual, although it's a growing organization, it's not Google or Facebook, right? So you don't have to be a multinational, 100,000 person firm in order to put some of these things in place. And we have learned in our 8 years at Thoughtium, being a small organization, that it's oftentimes way more advantageous to put some of this laddering and some of this infrastructure, we call it kind of the backbone, into the organization prior to scaling, because it's easier to scale on good infrastructure than it is to try to lift a house after it's been built.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about, what it's been like. And I know, again, only 6 months here at Penn, but you've got a lot of experience in this space. What's some of the messaging that you might be providing, or like the conversations that you're having with stakeholders to ensure that they get just as excited about this as you, maybe not as excited, but they understand the value of putting some of these foundational components in place.
Yep. Yep. That's been, if you can sell that, then you can hit the ground running. But for my, you have to start off with either cost savings, or you just usually in HR, we don't necessarily make the company money, but how can we either save money or increase the quality of talent, things of that nature. And I've talked to leaders about, if we can understand better the internal talent and what we have, there's more opportunity for internal talent filling our roles. You're keeping tribal knowledge within the walls. You're then creating cross-functional partnerships between those two departments, usually because they understand each other better, if we're able to move talent around in a little bit more strategic way, because we know the skills, the proficiency levels, things like that. That's one sell point. I think the other point is, if we are not fit, or if we're not able to retain our talent, the obvious thing we all know is you're going to have a cost of at least 1x, usually 2+X the cost of their salary. So there's some factors there, but then I think the longer term picture that really perks them up, I'll say, is if we can talk to them about, imagine a world where I can more proactively upskill your talent because I actually know what the gaps are. It's not a finger in the wind feeling from a leader who doesn't always get all the information, right? It's that iceberg. Leaders, they know, and we know, they only get a piece of the information of what's really going on. People want to sell the better news, right, to their boss. That's just how organizations work. So if our leaders don't always have all the information, how can we get it? We can get it through the more structured approach of, what are our skills, assessing those skills. We can do, again, some formal approaches where it's not just leader opinion, which we still get leader opinion and that subjectivity with performance reviews, and that's going to happen, and that's okay for that core mass in the middle. But you can calibrate, who are your outliers, who are those folks that maybe someone wants to advocate for that is in the middle, that has some potential and is up and coming. If you've got a succession pool, what are you doing for them? We can do science-backed with a vendor assessments, things that are a little bit more high caliber, to validate some of these thoughts or feelings or subjectivity before we put them into a critical role or something of that nature. So all of that to say, I think for Penn Mutual, what we're doing right now and how we're thinking about it is, we are doing a lot of this build, and this is a journey that we're going to start to explore. But I have seen it done at a kind of mid-level Fortune 500 in the past, and it's gone well. But like I have heard, to your point with executives, is it's more buttons to push, it's more to do, those sorts of, but we've continued to push. Yes, but there's a way where we can make it a little bit more streamlined and put it in the flow of work, put it in with your mid-year, feel like it's another thing for you to do. It's still part of that same performance calibration conversation. So again, we're not a lot more to your plate, but we are getting a lot more quality data that's clean that can go into the system.
One of the most tried and true, like, kind of impact stories that we're encouraging our clients to look at and to tell is tying building great learning and development, leadership development, to specific challenges, particularly that people managers are having. We know that this day and age, it's getting more nuanced to be a people leader. The research is also suggesting that less people want to actually step into people leadership roles because of the complexities of running a team today, and a bit of the flattening of organizations that's happening just based on contextual trends. And so it's harder to be a leader today. And if we can take some of these foundational tools, whether it's career mapping or talent assessment or understanding certain skill gaps, and arm our people leaders with then more informed and better discussions that they can have with their people, we find that is one of the most high impact ways to bring forward a great learning strategy, saying, hey, this is not just going to be a program that your folks are going to enroll in. Your folks are going to go through these programs, and we're going to be able to arm our people leaders with more informed, more specific conversations, especially those people leaders that maybe feel challenged to have the difficult conversation with somebody who's got a real skill gap. This day and age, those conversations are tough. They're nuanced. They're tricky. And this backbone of really kind of knowing what data you need to kind of assess talent and assess learning can be an incredible tool, not just for us, but for our people leaders. So I think that's another or a specific example of maybe what you're talking about in terms of how we can bring the value and the impact of these efforts.
I'd add to that too on business leaders, I think another point for them that we can make is we don't make business decisions without some sort of KPI or numeric behind it or actual data.
Yeah.
Yet we make a lot of people decisions without data
Yep.
and feeling and that sort of thing. So I think that's another way to speak their language and saying this gives us more people data to feel more confident. Not that it's going to be 100% accurate, right? It's people, but it is going to get us a lot closer to accurate. So you have a higher success rate of placement into roles. You have higher performance than because you have the right person in the right seat.
Yeah.
And I think that's another big selling point, and it makes those career conversations a lot easier.
Yep.
They're still hard, but a lot easier when you have clear skills that you can line out to that impact the role success for them versus it being a general conversation or saying, well, I think this skill is going to be important, and then the employee may disagree with you.
Mm-hmm.
No, it is important. It has been aligned to the role. This is where you are. Again, there's some subjectivity, but it does help with the conversation.
Yeah. I'm curious, as you are, taking a closer look at kind of team complexion, skills, career pathing, are there certain skills or competencies that are popping up or becoming more prevalent for you in your organization that may not have existed 2 or 3 years ago? And of course, there's some of the obvious like digital proficiency and business acumen, but are there some that are maybe surprising you?
I don't know if I'm very surprised, just because it's been a theme throughout my career where
Yeah.
different areas of a business tend to have certain needs, and that hasn't really changed from my experience. But I do think what is being talked about more, not that it's new, but it's more conversation, I think, on the businesses side, but we've known it, is you have a higher need for this executive presence at
Yes.
VP and above sort of
Yeah.
level for every company I've been at. But I think because of the nature of where business is going and there's more change at a rapid pace, it's coming faster and faster and faster. And I hear and have heard for the last 5 years since COVID, 6, whatever it's been, that employees are struggling with that kind of resiliency
Yeah.
of they can't get over one change before the next one comes. And I've seen that over several organizations.
Yep.
So it's not just one. And I think the need for leaders to have a leadership presence, which is that stability, the ability to communicate a message, tell a story about why a change is happening, help recommunicate that story and stay steady, even if they aren't always convicted or not in the change. I think that's a core skill that is
Yeah.
being more, has always been a need, but it's being talked about more. And then I think the second, beyond AI is of course up there with every other
Yeah.
company, but the second that is being talked about more right now that I've noticed has been around critical thinking and partnership. So deep problem solving, if you would,
Mm,
critically think through not just solving the problem that's been handed to us, but where did the problem come from and solving that root and then collaborating amongst a project team to actually go solve it
yeah.
versus creating more work because you're not actually solving the root cause. I think that has been a big ask recently is how do we help people do that more effectively? And it's usually human skills that are needed to do that. They're all very credible
Yeah.
and technically smart, but how do we help them think a little bit more deeply and utilize people around them?
Yeah. I love that. I mean, it's so exciting to us because we're definitely in on the playing field of human skills here at Thoughtium. That's what we live and we breathe. And in so many ways, as we work with our client organizations, they're finding the same thing that as yes, we've got to invest in technical training and some of the more kind of automated components to the way that we'll be working in the future. There's this real need for people to continue to sharpen their sword and elevate their human skills. And you named it: executive presence, critical thinking, problem solving. Again, tried and true. One might say, typical kind of soft skills, but they're in a much different context today. And we'll take executive presence as a perfect example because we're hearing this left and right as well too. As organizations are becoming more flat, folks are being thrust into leadership positions quicker and maybe without the same level of experience that they would have, 5 or 10 years ago. And that's calling on them to influence larger populations and to navigate tricky scenarios, whether it be bringing big ideas to the organization, vying for budgeting, defending a P&L, or having a difficult conversation with one of their employees. That executive presence is really important. I want to almost apply a bit of this mantra of automate the ordinary, elevate the human to executive presence. Like from your perspective, Alex, like how would you apply that? Are there aspects to executive presence that we can automate in terms of the way we train people? And are there aspects of executive presence that must remain human?
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's both. So I'll start with the first piece of, I think the automation that comes with executive presence is preparedness, is where my brain goes on.
Ooh, love it.
Oh, you're going into a type of meeting, right? You're going to prepare, or I'll say you should prepare differently for an all call or a town hall or something that's more TED Talk style, where I'm speaking
Love it.
a large group versus
Yeah.
my staff meeting with my direct reports. Those are very different presence situations. And how do you prepare that, knowing those different topics, the flow of the story, how you communicate, what's on the slide, all those different things are going to be different. So I think there's some automation factor of, if you have no idea where to start, or you just want to gut check yourself and what you're doing, you can use AI, right? We can hop onto a Copilot, ChatGPT, what have you, and it can help you as a thought partner think through what that should look like. That's where my mind goes. Now, the person element is understanding your body language and understanding mind technical difficulties. It's not what I would want, right? So I'm always thinking about your presence and how you're communicating to the world, which we're a fully virtual company. So we always say you have this box to work with, and that's all. And we giggle because it's true. Can people see you? Are you at eye level? Are you looking up at someone? Are you looking down? And all the things you consider. And while it might kind of seem silly of we're here to get our work done, yes, but we also are human and our minds work in a funny way, and you can't turn it off, where we are constantly analyzing the other person on the other end of the camera, especially for virtual. And that plays into the stories we tell ourselves about that person or the message we're hearing and all of that. So you can't take that person element out.
Yeah.
You ideas, right, from the robot, from the AI, but actually interacting and telling a story. For instance, that human element of you asking why I do what I do. That's the human.
Totally.
So I think there's a balance, of course.
Oh, I love it. You're so speaking our language. We have this kind of framework here at Thoughtium as we start to introduce, AI into more of our workflows, and it's simply human, machine, human. That's kind of the process that we follow here, where take executive presence for an example. It's our job to really sit down and understand, to your point, like how we need to read the room in this situation. What's the context that's being brought into this discussion that I might be having, or this presentation that I'm giving? What are the communication styles and preferences of those that might be in the room? That's all a very human component to executive presence. Machine. Leverage AI in ChatGPT to draft up a couple of real world scenarios that you might face in this particular discussion or presentation, so that you can almost practice or role play, in the background. And AI does an incredible job, if you feed it the context, of coming up with training scenarios that you can use to elevate your skills in these areas. So that's human machine, and human then is taking what you learned in those scenarios and making sure that you have the right custom approach to stepping into this difficult discussion, reading the room, or this great presentation that you've got with a boardroom or a C-suite, and understanding how you're going to approach the room and connect with folks and understand where you might need to pivot and some of the non-automated nuances to those scenarios. So human machine human is a flow that keeps us in check, right? Because it might be much easier to just input, hey, I've got this meeting or I've got this difficult discussion. What do I do? And I think that's where we get caught a little bit in just the over automation of, all of a sudden now you're asking AI to kind of think and act for you.
Yeah, I completely agree. It doesn't know those nuances. It doesn't know your audience. It doesn't know all the different contexts. To your point, you have to read the room.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. Well, Alex, we so appreciate this conversation. I think we've covered a lot of ground here today. We explored a couple of the key foundational pillars to building great learning culture. We also explored the nuanced balance between those aspects of L&D that can be automated and those that must remain human. And I think one of the interesting through lines here is that we can do all of this efficiently and effectively. It doesn't take massive budgets. it really takes kind of our own authority to understand what needs to be automated and what needs to be preserved as a unique human experience. And we just so appreciate you being a champion of L&D and building great L&D and a big part of the Navigating Now community.
No, I appreciate it. I'm glad to be here, and I'm happy to nerd out on any topic.
Yeah, something tells me this won't be the last conversation. Do you have a quick minute for we typically do a quick lightning round, a fun lightning round at the end to get to know you a little bit better?
Yeah, that sounds fun. Let's do it.
So Alex, what are you reading, watching, or listening to that like has you totally geeking out these days, and it can be work related or not?
Yeah, I'll start with watching. So I've been watching a few podcasts off of the Diary of a CEO.
Love that.
And I didn't realize till recently, if you pull it up on Spotify, it is a little video, so you can watch it.
Yeah.
So I've been doing that on several different topics, some around AI, some around health and the science behind it. And it's just kind of blowing my mind, because I think there's always a tie-in to what everything's connected. But that's the first. The next, as far as reading, I'm excited. I'm not reading it presently. We have a 10-month-old, so I am zonked by the end of the day. I have it by 5 to 9, and then I don't have a lot between, so it's a lot of podcast listening when I get a chance. But I will say I'm excited. There's a new Brené Brown book coming out soon. I think that's kind of exciting. So
I had not heard.
I just saw it.
What's the theme? Do you know?
I forget.
Okay.
But anything she does, I'm like, I want to read it. So I will read that one when it comes. But yeah, those are the things I'm nerding out on right now. And then the occasional article I get to click on or find.
I love it. What's something that you is like a must have to travel with? Like what's always in your bag, or like you never leave the home and get on a plane without it?
Yeah, probably. Oh God, there's so many things. I'm like the girl. When I go on a trip, if you need something, I probably packed it. And I've done it in a carry-on, which I brag about. But the backup phone charger, because I'm constantly taking pictures. I love images. I take them and blow them up and put them in our home, and I love to travel. So it's usually camera's dead on my phone. So backup charger.
I love it. Is there a unique tool that you're using personally or within Penn Mutual that you know has really provided some efficiency, or something that you're just having fun using in the day-to-day workflow?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Synthesia. I won't even try to spell it right here, but Synthesia, SYNESI, something like that. But anyway, we are using that to create some e-learning videos, and it's very feels like you're using PowerPoint, things like that, but very quick to create some e-learning compared to if you were doing it manually or old school.
I love it. We're also in the game of producing a lot of video content these days on a budget. Have you heard of Descript?
I have not, but I'm going to write it down.
Oh, it's so great. It's so great. It's Descript essentially, you upload a video, it creates a manuscript from the video, and you can edit the video by way of the words. So it will automatically take out all filler words. If there's a piece that you need to kind of cut out, you do it in the script as opposed to having to find the frame in the video. And it does a whole bunch of other things as well too. Just fascinating. And again, these are the things that like we want to automate, right? Like we don't want to spend hours in post-production on trading vignettes, or we don't want to necessarily have to shop that out to an expensive vendor. A lot of that stuff you can do now, you know, on the cheap and very efficiently.
Agree. Completely agree.
Okay. Last question. I want you to think of something that you admire about yourself. And I want you to finish this sentence. If the world were a lot more like Alex, it would be what?
Calm.
Ooh, I love that.
I've been told my whole life that I give calm. I'm like, that is not what's going on in here most of the time, but calm. I'll leave it there.
Well, I will tell you, as somebody who 4 minutes before we went live was dealing with some technical issues, and it might have been on our side or yours, like I experienced a very calm version of you. I mean, there's very few people would be as calm and collected as you were 4 minutes before we were about to go live. So yeah, I can definitely vouch for that. And the way that we've experienced you has just been so delightful. We're so happy to have you in this network. We know a lot of folks were excited to hear your perspective today. And we hope that you all got a lot out of today's episode, or maybe even just a nugget or two that, again, enables you to be a 1 or 2% better than you were yesterday. So again, Alex, thank you for your practitionership, your leadership, and we're excited to have you a part of the Navigating Now community.
Wonderful. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
We'll see you soon.
See you. Bye-bye.
All right. That was just an incredible episode. I literally just looked up at the clock and realized that we went way over, which is totally okay. We just get excited about these conversations that are so relevant today, particularly on finding the right balance within our organizations with so much coming at us. What is that? What is that human aspect that we need to preserve at all costs? And I feel like we've come at it in so many different directions over the last few weeks, and that's because it's a big, big topic of conversation today. So we want to thank everybody for tuning in today. We go live every Thursday afternoon at 3 p.m. Central. You can find today's episode with Alex at thoughttium.com/live. So if you're watching on LinkedIn, you want to go back and watch the whole episode, thoughttium.com/live. That also has a whole catalog of our previous episodes. You can sort by topic, etc. And that's where you can learn about future episodes as well, too. With that, we're signing out. Episode 245 in the books. Everybody have a great rest